Vlad Guerrero couldn't come to an agreement with the Blue Jays. Rafael Devers wants to stick at third base. And we're going to talk NL spring training job battles, all coming up on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. We are brought to you by Fantrax and Edge Boost. I am Jeff Erickson. He is Fred Zinke. You can find our work at RotoWire. Fred, you can also find at Yahoo. You can follow Fred on Twitter at Fred Zinke MLB. Me at Jeff_Erickson. I'm also on Blue Sky at Jeff-Erickson. Welcome, everybody. Fred, we got to start off with bad news, unfortunately, for you as a Jays fan. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the Jays could not come to an agreement on a contract extension, and it didn't sound particularly close.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know. I thought the quote by Vlad was good where he said they had their numbers and I had my number. The Jays are saying that they're not willing to disclose numbers, which I think is cool. That's professional. Vlad's not willing to disclose numbers. We really don't know. I think that it's like, as a Jays fan, it's just like incredibly disappointing. I mean, you don't want to like massively overpay, but we know that guys like Vlad get a lot of money. It's just sad. Like Vlad's like, he's not a perfect baseball player, but he's really fun to watch. Like he's just a really fun guy. He enjoys baseball a lot. He smiles a lot. Like he has fun with the game. He's been with the Blue Jays since he was a teenager. And the countdown clock's on. Like I would for sure bet that he's not a member of the Blue Jays at this time next year. Like it's possible, but I think it's on judging by the comments. He said they're going to have to now compete with the other 29 teams for me.
Yeah. And he was asked if the team was close to what he was asking, and Guerrero simply said no.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
And Ross Atkins, I am confident we exhausted the communication, the ideas, the thoughts, and communicated every dollar. The offers that we made for Vlad would have been record setting and would have made him one of the highest played players in the game.
Okay.
You know, it's the hashtag we tried thing all over again.
It's so hard to know without numbers. Like, is Vlad asking for something that's unreasonable? I do have legitimate questions about how Vlad will age. Like, he is a heavier player. He's already a first base. I know he wants to play a little third. He's already a first baseman. We have seen some of those guys. He does have a great batting eye, but we have seen some of those guys kind of trending towards overweight first baseman in his mid-20s. We have seen some of those guys not do very well once they get on the other side of 30. So I do have concerns about that. It's just sad. Like I said, like it's just disappointing for a Blue Jays fan. Now I think the question with Vlad is he a Blue Jay until the end of the season?
Right.
Or is he a Blue Jay until the end of July? And that's out of Vlad's hands and kind of in the hands of the rest of his teammates, because if they're in the race, he'll be a Blue Jay for the rest of the season. If they're not, I think it's actually likely that the Blue Jays would get what they can for Vlad at the end of July. If he's not giving them any hometown discount and he doesn't seem like he would want to negotiate with them during October before he hits free agency, then I don't see why they would keep him.
Well, they're going to be busy playing the World Series in October, so they can't negotiate then.
Oh, that's the thing. Like, yeah. So either they're on track for that at the end of July, or I think him and probably Bo Bichette are probably both. Like Bichette arrived to spring training and said that the Blue Jays haven't even offered him anything. Like he said, he hasn't had contract. Like if you believe Bo Bichette, he came to spring training and said, I haven't had any contract negotiations with the Blue Jays.
Is he a free agent at the end of this year?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
So
life comes at you fast. But yeah, you're right. He's had 5+ years already in the bigs. He signed that 3-year extension in February 2023. So this is the last year of that.
Yeah, covered all his arbitration. But and Vlad and Bo were the face, along with Biggio and some guys of that
Springer.
Yeah, that Atkins Shapiro build. But Vlad and Bo were supposed to be the two superstars, to center the lineup around. They could both be on other teams on August 1st.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, it hasn't worked out. I mean, they did sign Santander. They did the Jimenez trade. It's not like they really made a legit effort on Sasaki. I don't know how legit their effort was on Soto. And we know they had a big effort on Ohtani the year before. It's not for a lack of trying. It's for the lack of pivots last year. I think that's where the bitterness stems from, is they actually had a really good pitching season last year.
Yep.
The Jays did. And it's just the offense. Not only did they not improve it, but so many players underachieved last year too. Bichette
Yep.
underachieved and then got hurt. Springer he just fell through the floor. Dalton Varsho wasn't the hitter they expected they were getting.
Yep.
And in fact, the hitting ever since they did the ballpark changes hasn't really reflected what they wanted it to be.
Totally. Yeah. Vlad last year is the only guy I'd say who's really had a great hitting season or hit above expectation since they changed the park. In the end, I think the demise of the Blue Jays, if these guys leave at the end of July, will be that Shapiro and Atkins haven't really developed players. Like they've been in charge of the Jays, I think now for 9 years since they let Anthopoulos go. And in that, so 9 years, like you should have generations of players now from your farm system. There aren't really Blue Jays, like Bichette and Guerrero were in the organization before they arrived. Like they haven't done a good job of developing. You could even argue like Bichette and Vlad were almost like can't misses who haven't exceeded expectations. They've maybe met them, but like beyond that, like when you look through the Blue Jays roster, like most of the pitchers are free agent signees. Like they just haven't done a good job of developing players. They had to get Jimenez, like Springer, Varsho, like they haven't developed guys where there's a few guys in the lineup at reasonable salaries.
Yeah, I think that's a fair critique. Bichette was a second round pick at least.
Yeah.
So you got to give him a little bit of credit for that. Hey, not that many second round picks become stars.
I think Bichette was drafted by Anthopoulos.
Yeah, 2016. So
I think that was Anthopoulos's no, I don't think so. Maybe that was their draft. Yeah. Maybe that was their first one. But I think it was. I think that was the Shapiro Atkins first draft. Anthopoulos was the 2015 Blue Jays with David Bryce, and then the 2016 Blue Jays, that was these guys when they went out more quickly in the playoffs and were starting to peter down. Like the Batista group was starting to peter down. So anyways, bottom line is, like I say, like most good teams have some players on the team that they developed. The Jays really don't.
No.
They don't have relievers. Like the bullpen was really crummy last year, and you're looking around and you're like, where are how have 9 years have we not put some relievers through the farm system that can just be like, it feels like teams like Cleveland just constantly produce these guys.
Yeah, you're right about that. And just like the players on the big league roster, I mean, Danny Jansen's gone. It's Alejandro Kirk, and Kirk had a horrible year last year. Yeah. He calls a good game, but he doesn't throw runners out. He doesn't hit for power, and obviously he's not going to leg out any hits. What does he do? There's got to be something more to that. They had to trade for Jimenez in the first place. The fact that they didn't have an in-house second baseman that was palatable. Davis Schneider, even the guys that they get called up, that get a chance, like Schneider. Okay, it was a fun little story when he got called up. He's a little old for a prospect, though, and it fizzled out. And it fizzled out badly last year. Addison Barger, is he a big league hitter or not? He's 25 and he gets his first chance. It's not like they've got these 22-year-olds banging down the door. They just don't have that. They have to trade for those.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can only trade for so many guys, and signing guys is expensive. And that's why the Blue Jays have a fairly expensive roster. Looks more like a 500 team. If you go through, like when you're at Roster Resource, you can go through, there's the How Acquired tab under every player. Basically everybody on the Blue Jays is trade or free agent. Like there's a couple Bichette's drafted, there's Guerrero and Kirk amateur signees, but like basically the whole projected bullpen is pretty old overall, and all free agents and trades. So
I think that's right. The other big news is a very spring training story. Rafael Devers had a press conference yesterday and talked about how, I am a third baseman. This is my position. I will not go be a DH or a first baseman. He's a bad defensive third baseman, one of the worst in baseball. Joe Sheehan had a really good column on that today. Highly recommend you read Joe Sheehan, by the way, if you don't already. But he titled it, "That's What the Money's For," based on that great scene in Mad Men. And it's true. Devers is paid handsomely. Do what you can do to help the team. But he doesn't seem to be willing to do that. And that has a big spillover effect to the rest of the roster. We talked about the Red Sox job battles last week. And it blocks Christian Campbell, basically. Because that means Bregman has to move to second. Campbell doesn't have a place to play. Maybe another trade is coming at some point in time, but right now there's an issue.
Yeah, well, I mean, when we talk about another trade coming, like I get, like people always talk about how they might trade. Maybe they could trade Tristan Casas and then move Devers over to first base. Devers didn't say he's a first baseman. Like, I know they were talking
No.
about him DHing, but he was like, no, I'm a third baseman. I don't know if he would be open to being a first baseman. Like if his back is up about being a DH, like where he's like, no, I play the field. Like, I don't want to be a DH. But like, if they don't trade Casas, then yeah, if they leave Devers in this situation, I don't know if they're going to push. Like, you're right. The nice thing to do, the smart baseball thing to do, is for Devers, who is the team's best hitter, to probably is to DH, and then Bregman can play third. That's assuming that Campbell looks like he's ready to play in the majors. There's no guarantee that Campbell necessarily looks like he's ready. Right now, they have Yoshida penciled into DH. He's got a projected 781 OPS. That's pretty good. Like, Campbell may not be ready to beat that yet.
Yeah, that is the question. But the thing is, one of Campbell's big things is he's a good defensive player. I mean, you are actively hurting the team by putting a worse defensive lineup out there, and that's part of the problem behind all that. So more to come on that one there. We'll see. And I saw the comment. Joel points out Casas came out today and said the prospect shouldn't make the opening day roster. He's behind Devers. LOL. Yes, LOL is the right thing here. Tristan Casas, a guy that's not even that established, shouldn't be the one that pronouncing who should and should not make the team.
It's such a mean thing to say. Like, Casas, how would you like it if guys had said that when you were a prospect?
They did. That's the thing. He was kind of like rookie hazed in his own way. Remember, they made fun of his stretching routine and all that, and he's kind of a weird.
Just paying it forward in the worst way. Like, come on, man. Like, I don't know. It just seems such a mean. Like, don't say anything if you don't have anything. If you want to say, if you're Casas, if you want to say, hey, Devers is a great teammate.
He also said he's the best third baseman in the league too, which LOL. I mean, okay then. So that's funny.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to talk spring training battles here. But first, have a quick note to share from our friends over at Fantrax. Fantrax is the most customizable fantasy platform in the industry, offering the greatest fantasy experience for your dynasty, keeper, redraft, and best ball leagues. Coming from another service, Fantrax makes it easy. Fantrax can import any of your current leagues and customize if needed. Fantrax offers the most in-depth player pool in the industry, including minor league players. Do you need a customizable commissioner service for your fantasy league? Fantrax offers more customization than any other platform. Waivers, categories, scoring system, schedule. Fantrax offers custom solutions for all that and more, and it's all free. Sign up for free today and be entered to win an official MLB signed jersey from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Sorry.
Get it while it lasts.
Yeah. Get it while it's still a Jays.
Yeah.
Simply go to fantrax.com/rotowire and sign up today. That's fantrax.com/rotowire. Fantrax, the home of fantasy sports. Hopefully it just says team. I don't know, but sorry, Fred. Sometimes it just can't
drops in your lap. You know what? I'm feeling sad and nostalgic about Vladdy already. I'd totally love to win that jersey. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
And Eric Powell says you're such a nice Canadian, so maybe you deserve that jersey. Go sign up. Hey, you're on a Fantrax league right now. You're doing the Tout Wars draft and hold league, and that just got started today.
Made my first pick 5 minutes before we started. Took Jose Ramirez 8th overall.
8th?
What?
Oh, it's OBP. That's
OBP. Why. So that did push Juan Soto ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I feel like Ramirez is actually kind of part now of that. Like he's not player 4 as the draft is. He was in some early drafts. Like I feel like now there's like a tier with like him and Ellie, Gunnar Henderson. It's like those guys are just kind of like 5, 6, 7. There's Kyle Tucker. Like I feel like all those guys are kind of like 5 to 8. Maybe in regular leagues he's a little on the earlier end of that tier, but you make it OBP and all of the guys I just mentioned went ahead of him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's launch into job battles, starting with the Mets and their starting pitcher slot. We had bad news with them. Frankie Montas out 6 to 8 weeks with a lat strain there. Bad news for that. You're not going to get a full 32 start season out of Montas. I've got him at like 19 now because I think he's not going to throw for 6 to 8 weeks. That doesn't mean he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. It's probably be out longer than that. It's kind of like this year's Kodai Senga.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not, because that lasted like the whole season. The Kodai Senga thing.
Yeah, well, he had the second injury there. Yeah, that's right.
It's true. So I think actually it's neat that we're starting off with this because it does raise a really good point when you talk about position battles with pitchers, is that there's just so many ways for a position battle with pitchers to just go poof. And
It'll
with
resolve itself at times. Yep.
right, you got any of the four guys ahead of them, plus these two, anyone gets hurt, and all of a sudden there isn't a battle. Now, there's a new battle, probably. I don't know. We'll see. But maybe Peterson's in the rotation now, and maybe Blackburn's in the rotation, but there's Griffin Canning hanging around too. But the Mets might use a six-man rotation, so maybe there's room for all of them, including Griffin Canning, and probably someone else is hurt by the time Montas is ready to return, because like you said, it's going to be a really long time till that's the case. So I think Peterson's in the rotation for sure. I think it's more Blackburn and Canning, or do they end up going with a six-man?
Yeah, and I still think they're committed to the six-man, but things have a way of changing there. Blackburn might not be ready for the start of the season.
Yeah.
And if not, then it's Clay Holmes, Peterson, Canning. Tyler McGill's still there too. So they still have six even without Blackburn.
I forgot about McGill. Yeah.
Yeah. Canning, was not, he was a guy that was DFA'd by the Braves after the trade from the Angels. And now it looks like, okay, well, he's kind of locked in there a little bit there. And Blackburn, latest on him is that, he's slightly behind competition with that back. As I had the spinal issue there at the end of the season last year, that at the start of spring training, he's behind everyone. That has a way of making itself up sometimes, but not guaranteed by any means. So something worth watching. Manaya, I like. Senga, I like. I think, you're not paying anywhere near the rate that he was slotted for last year because of the multiple injuries. So I think it's worth taking the chance on Senga at his current cost.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Clay Holmes as well. I think I'm interested to see, he just gets so many ground balls. I'm interested to see how he can do as a starter. So I'm fine with him. And I'm actually David Peterson on my bench. I'm not excited about it, but I could do it. I just kind of where I have him ranked. It's maybe someone in a 15-team league who should be drafted, but as a bench player. The rest of them, I'm out. I'm willing to get sucked back in with McGill because he does have a decent strikeout rate. So I'm willing. I'm not totally out on McGill, but I'm not.
And you're in a good team and a good ballpark, so I'm not out on any of these guys really.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I'm pretty out. I'm out as far as drafting goes. I'm out on Blackburn and Canning. I can't in a regular mixed league. 15 team mixed league, I'm out on those guys.
Fair enough. Draft and hold. I think there's still a way to go and make that work.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So as far as that goes, so we'll see. I got my last pick coming up. I think I did get Blackburn in that league. It's the Speakers League for First Pitch Arizona. Did I get? Yeah, I got Blackburn in the 49th round. So yeah, guy that could start for them at some point in time. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, for sure.
Take our chances of that.
Yep.
Let's stick with the Mets. Starling Marte was kind of informed that he's on the short side of the platoon. Carlos Mendoza had there was a Mets fest, and he pulled Marte aside and pretty much told him he's going to platoon with Jesse Winker at DH for the most part there. They don't really want to trade him because they don't think they can get good full value out of him. But if Nimmo's there, if Siri's there, they don't really want Marte to play the field as much. So that means it's he and Jesse Winker are platooning. So kind of a downgrade for Starling Marte.
Yeah, big time. I don't think he's draftable unless the Mets, have an injury. And Jose Siri, I know Jose Siri is a lousy hitter, but he's actually perfect in my opinion for this team. He's a great center fielder, great defensive center fielder on a team that now with Soto and Alonso back now just has a lot of hitting. So the Mets have a really long lineup. Why not leave Soto at the bottom? The fact he's not a great hitter doesn't really matter. He can also steal a base. So there's just the odd thing he can do to help the team as a bad hitter. But the defense, especially to me, is really great. So I think Marte's undraftable right now. I think he needs an injury. The nice thing about Marte is there's a bunch of ways for him to get in the lineup. Basically if any outfielder or Winker get hurt, he's into the lineup. But until that happens, I think he's probably on waivers.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that.
I know he's had some good stretches, but I mean, if we just step back, he's a 36-year-old who struggles to stay healthy on the short side of a platoon with a projected OPS just over 700. I can't draft him.
Yeah, I can't either. I took him in First Pitch Arizona in the XFL in November, and I have regrets about that.
You'll probably end up cutting him.
Yeah, I think so too, unless he gets traded. If he gets traded, because I still think he has value as a player,
Yep,
but
absolutely.
just not. It's the wrong situation for him right there. Atlanta Braves. I got a question already about that. So perfect timing to kind of segue over into them. Brad's asks, should I be afraid about drafting Strider high? And I think how you need to define what high is.
Yeah.
Average draft pick right now for Strider in the NFBC in the last week and a half has been about pick 120. I'm okay with that price. I'm not thrilled about it. I haven't done it yet, but I'm okay with it. Second Tommy John surgery though, so there's a bit of a concern about that.
His wasn't Tommy John, was it? Wasn't it a brace?
No, it's the internal brace. Second
Yeah.
UCL. I misspoke.
Yeah. I'm fine. I'm fine with it. I don't love it. In an NFBC where you don't have IL slots, I don't really love it. Like you've got to carry them throughout April.
Yeah.
I feel like that draft price is fair. If I had IL slots, I'm in. I'm interested. I don't know. I just feel like that's a part of the draft where there's a lot of decent pitching, and maybe I don't need to deal with Spencer Strider this year, who's definitely going to miss some starts. I think it's fair.
But he's got potential to have 4.5 months of number one starter upside, though. That's the thing that's so tough. Yeah. But it's the same thing we dealt with, like with DeGrom and other years too. And well, maybe that's your lesson. But
how many innings? How many innings do you have him?
Good question. Let me see what I projected for him there. Because I have him like a 150 overall value in terms of my our customized rankings according to projection based rankings. I've got him projected for only 89 this year, though. So I'm on the low side.
Yeah,
ATC's at 110. It's just as a vantage point there. I just think year one coming back from a UCL, you're going to deal with some command issues as well. And I think that's the other thing that's holding me back from using him. But, again, I mean, it's, even honestly, even 2023 season, he still had a 386 ERA with that 281 Ks. I mean, it's crazy, just insane how many strikeouts. It was a cheat code as far as that goes. Ratios aren't perfect, but it's just this stuff is so nasty.
I think to get on board with him in the first 10 rounds or something, like you have to firmly believe that he can strike out batters at that kind of rate again. So you could have him for 4 months, but he could get you what another pitcher would get in strikeouts in 6 months. That's who he was that one year. But again, like you said, like the ERA that year wasn't helpful. The whip was good, but like you said, if you're worried about control issues, maybe the whip regresses a little bit. I don't know. I just think there's a bunch of guys that go not that far ahead of him or around him that I think you could, pick for.
I agree. And I'd be more enthusiastic if he had the procedure done in November of 23 and pitched in like 3 games last year than I would, the way it is. He's supposed to pitch in maybe 1 or 2 spring training games. They're saying he probably won't come back until May, though. So I'm probably not going to get a whole lot of Strider this year. And I might lose out on that. He might be that special, but, actuarially speaking, probably is a bet against. So let's look at the remainder, guys, in this Braves rotation, because we got Sale, we got Lopez, Schwellenbach are pretty well set. I happen to like Grant Holmes a lot. Ian Anderson might have a spot. AJ Smith-Shawver, Bryce Elder, Houston Waldrep. These are people that are competing for those remaining spots. I'm big on Holmes. I put him in, even in a world where Strider is back. I have Holmes remaining in the rotation. Obviously, we have a month to deal with that, and the Braves have a tough schedule early on. They start the year with the Dodgers and Padres. I think it's Padres then Dodgers. Point is, you don't really want to use them in those starts.
No, which might not be like if you're talking about someone like Holmes, like you're probably just drafting him for your bench anyway. So that's actually not bad. Like, let's get that start out of the way at the beginning. You're not going to use him for that start anyways. So let's get it out of the way. If he gets absolutely blown up, whatever, maybe even keep him through those starts. If he holds his own, then maybe you have something. Because like I said, like if you drafted Grant Holmes, like even if his first match was just like the Cubs, something kind of middle of the road, like he may not get into your lineup anyway. So if he has a hard matchup early, that's fine. I'm kind of with you. Like I'm willing to draft Holmes in a 15-team league on my bench. If I knew Smith-Shawver was going to be in the rotation, maybe. Ian Anderson, no. Strikeout rate's way too low for me to Like, it's just not worth the ratios, like with the
Right.
strikeout rate. Bryce Elder, same thing. No.
Yeah. And with Holmes, I think there's a question in the forum. I think it was Joel that asked, why do I like Holmes? I like his ability to miss bats.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he corrected a lot in his command. I think the Braves did well to kind of mine him to find that, okay, this is a guy that can help us. I think they're good at doing that. I trust them, and I trust the Rays to do that with certain pitchers. I think he's a guy that could be, at the end of the year, he was one of their most reliable pitchers. Now, you say what you will about end of the year, but he got them into the playoffs basically. So
Yep.
he and Schwellenbach were the guys that were their best pitchers
Yep.
in September. So I think I'm on board with him, and the price is right. He's still goes in the 300s for the most part there. You look at just NFBC ADP, his range is 246 to 481 drafts, pick 312 on average. So yeah, I'm on board with that. If I'm not going to pick him at like pick 250, but if he's there at 300, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, last year I know he spent some time in the bullpen, so that's helpful. But his strikeout minus walk rate was 19.5%. That's pretty solid, right?
Yep.
Like, he's striking out basically last year a batter per inning. Walk rate was low. There's good tools to work with there. Pitching for the Braves, we think I think Pacoda had the Braves as second in all of baseball actually for the projected record. So he's on a really good team, like a really good team, good lineup, solid bullpen. Yeah, I like him. Like I said, and I'll evaluate the fifth starter, but if it's Ian Anderson or Bryce Elder, I think I'm not going to bother.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Miami, they have copious job battles probably. They have roster battles here, but we're going to focus on first base and DH, and Jonah Bride versus Deyvison De Los Santos. De Los Santos came over in the AJ Puck deal. De Los Santos last year at three different levels hit a combined 40 home runs. Did I got that right? Yeah, I do got that right. That's a lot of home runs. Some legit power. He's a right-handed hitter. They're saying he might begin the year in AAA. Barry Jackson, the Miami Herald, reported that. I think when you put together this outline, that was before that update came together. But still, I wanted a little bit of exposure to him, but this kind of pumps the brakes a little bit.
Well, actually, since I sent that to you last week, the Marlins official site also mentioned Matt Mervis.
Yes, never nervous, Matt Mervis.
Yeah, as a strong candidate to be their first baseman. I mean, because when you posted a 763 OPS in AAA last year, why wouldn't you be ready for the majors, right? Like that. Mm-hmm. So last year in the minors, he hit 235 with 15 homers in 81 games, so exactly half season. So decent power numbers. Did not hit for average. His average in the minors has been on the decline the last couple of years. Anyways, but Matt Mervis is the kind of reclamation project that teams like the Marlins should engage in, right? So it makes.
I don't like it at the expense of De Los Santos, though. That's my only problem with it.
No, in fact, I'd like to see them move Bride. If they want to put De Los Santos at first base for some point, like I wouldn't mind them moving Bride to DH, and then maybe Mervis gets 3 weeks, and then while De Los Santos starts in the minors, and then if Mervis isn't hitting in 3 weeks, they swap.
Yeah, and it's important to point out the Marlins are now run by a former Rays guy as their GM, so I think they will mess around with service time. I think that's one of the things, and De Los Santos obviously hasn't started his clock. So that's one of the reasons why it seems more likely that he would start in AAA. So I get it there. So I did when I saw that note, I did reduce De Los Santos's playing time projection there quite a bit. Washington Nationals, their pitching was actually still pretty bad.
It was
still okay. They had some, some guys like Jake Irvin was a good story, and then he didn't finish well. Trevor Williams got hurt. DJ Herz is a guy. Mitchell Parker is a guy that are kind of battling for spots. Herz has some strikeout potential. He's the guy I think is the interesting one. 106 Ks and 88 2/3 innings last year. What do you like in this bottom part of this rotation here?
Well, I like Herz, but he seems to be the odd man out. Just kind of reading the tea leaves here in Washington, and we know teams are going to stockpile pitching depth however they can. So Trevor Williams is going to be in the rotation if he's healthy. He's 32 years old. He's a starter. They're putting him in the rotation. They added Michael Soroka, which I'm not excited about, except for the fact that he is Canadian. So that gives me like a little excitement. But really, from a fantasy perspective, I'm not excited. He's been injured so much over
$9 million.
Yeah, they paid him a bit.
Really?
So yeah, so he's in the rotation. So DJ Herz is not. Like Jake Irvin's in the rotation, Mitchell Parker's in the rotation. Those guys were in the rotation all last season, basically. Like DJ Herz is not. Now, what's crazy about the whole thing is DJ Herz at roster resource has a lower projected ERA than every starter in the rotation except Mackenzie Gore, and has a better strikeout rate projected than every starter in the rotation except Mackenzie Gore. It would even rival Gore's, actually. So, anyways, but either way, DJ Herz is not in the rotation. So many things can happen with the starting rotation from this point forward. I'm still willing in early drafts. I'm interested in Herz maybe as a bench pick.
I think this is a buying opportunity. Let them keep on saying that and see if his price goes down a little bit, because it is kind of crazy that they go that route. But then again, money talks. You pay $9 million for a guy, he's going to get a spot. But Herz currently goes before every other non-Mackenzie Gore pitcher on the Nationals. Goes ahead of, and even ex-Nationals and Finnegan. But it shows kind of a bleak picture. There's only two starters that go in the top 330 among starting pitchers. There's Gore and Herz at 321, Jake Irvin 515, Mitchell Parker 580, Trevor Williams, Mike Soroka are in the 600. So the fact that they're choosing these guys I thought it's interesting. It's a choice. There's like a little sneaky battle that they signed a Japanese pitcher, Oga Sawara. There we go. In his age 27 season, we'll see what he can do. But he could be a starting pitcher. Cade Cavalli, they said, would have a role at some point this season. Could be a factor in the second half. Won't win a spot out of spring training though.
Yeah, it does seem like the Nats are almost there. They've turned the corner, but they're willing to let the pitching lag behind the hitting for another year. The hitting, they've started to kind of figure out, what Cruz is in there now, Wood's in there, Abrams hopefully gets back on track. He's in there. The Garcia's kind of broken through to be a major league regular. The hitting, they've kind of got that going now. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. The pitching, it seems like they're willing to just kind of tinker with it for another year, I guess. A lot of these guys have some of these guys like Gore and Parker and everything. They have a lot of options left. Don't have a lot of service time. So Herz. So I think that's where they're at. I think that the Nats aren't trying to contend. They don't care if DJ Herz opens the season in AAA. As soon as one of these guys goes down, he'll be up. As soon as they're all back, he'll be down. I'm with you. I don't mind him right now as a bench pick. If we get to March 20th, and all of the pitchers are still healthy, then I'm probably just going to have to be out on Herz, because I just don't know if I have roster space to carry a minor league pitcher who's got a good strikeout rate, but I'm not sure about the ratios. I think I could probably do better than that.
Agreed. Yeah. We're going to hit up the NL Central next, but first, a quick note from our friends over at the Blue Wire Network. All right. Thank you very much, Blue Wire, for hosting us. Let's hit up the NL Central. Milwaukee has got a job battle in the infield positions. I mean, Joey Ortiz and Bryce Turang are in. Who else is in? Caleb Durbin, Tyler Black, Oliver Dunn. One of those players is going to play a decent amount. Who do you got?
I want Caleb Durbin. I think it makes a lot of sense to me. I think he's a better hitter than the other contenders. He's certainly a more exciting prospect. He was part of the Devin Williams trade. So I think it'd be cool for Milwaukee to have some immediate dividends from that trade. From him, I know they got Cortez as well. So they're going to get dividends from that trade, but Durbin could be the exciting dividends from that trade. I do think it's possible. I don't like Oliver Dunn. He's just not a good hitter. He can walk a bit. I don't know. I don't like him. I think there's a possibility that it could be Tyler Black. He was a bit of a prospect last year. Also Canadian, by the way. I think he was a bit of a prospect last year. He can draw a walk. He can steal a base. I don't mind him, but I don't know. I think it might be Durbin now.
Fred, the market agrees with you. Dunn's been drafted twice in the month of February in the NFBC. So out of 81 drafts, Durbin is almost drafted in all of these, although at least in draft champions he is. In a 12 team, I'm doing the Beat Jeff Erickson 12 teamer tomorrow. Durbin probably won't go there.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe half and half.
Although he's not like, you're right, he probably won't go. He is like in a February draft, he is like your prototypical last round pick in the sense that like you'll either be pumped that you have him in a month because they'll have named him the starting whatever third baseman, or you'll just be like an easy cut. They're going with Tyler Black and Oliver Dunn and some sort of, they're not a platoon, but like some sort of working together
for sure
spot. I don't know. Anyways, I do think like Tyler Black, when he got called up last year, there was definitely not a bidding frenzy, but everyone was grabbing him. He was getting grabbed on the first Sunday. He was up in every league. He's still the same guy. He's only 24. Like he could get another shot to be their third baseman. He's projected for an OPS around 700. That's not terrible. It's not bad. Like when you can also steal a base, like, yeah, I wouldn't, if I knew he had won the job again, I would be interested in him at near the end of drafts.
Yeah. 805 OPS in AAA last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You have my attention a little bit there.
Some of these guys, they just go to us as fantasy. Like they just go from like prospect to like completely out of mind so quickly. Like it's like last May, we're all bidding something okay on Tyler Black. Then he comes up and he doesn't immediately light the majors on fire. And then we're like, nah. This year, we're like,
well, and the Brewers were that way too. They were, and sent him right back down. He only got 18 games in.
Yeah.
So, sure. I mean, I remember, he barely got much of a playing time, and he was the subject of bidding wars the first time he got the call up, and they sent him down almost immediately.
A nice little platoon situation could be forget Oliver Dunn, Black and Durbin kind of platoon. There's a righty and a lefty there. Maybe Durbin picks up some other spots, spelling guys because he's a versatile fielder. Mm-hmm. Like I think that Black could pick up the odd start at first base and things like that. Like I think there's a way to make all those pieces work. So yeah, I'm interested in those two guys at the end of 15 team league drafts.
All right. Very good. Let's keep rolling. St. Louis, when you don't sign anybody, and I mean anybody at all, you're going to have some job battles internal job battles from players that are coming up through the farm system there. Let's start off in the outfield. Michael Siani is a good defensive outfielder, but really couldn't hit. Unfortunately for his competition, Victor Scott hit even worse. Neither of them it might be a case where the answer is neither. I'm looking at our depth chart, for instance, there, and we've got Donovan, Nootbaar, Walker as projected outfielders. This might be just even for a roster spot.
Yeah, it depends. So it starts by depending whether Donovan is in the infield or the outfield. So Donovan could play second base, or Nolan Gorman could play second base because he was awful last year, but has had his moments prior to that. So if Nolan Gorman could hit well in spring training, he could play second base against right-handers. That puts Donovan in the outfield. And then you're right. And then maybe it's a moot point on Scott and Siani. I think Siani's definitely on the team but I think he'd be better him as a bench player, late inning defensive player, starts the odd game. He is an elite fielder, like one of the absolute best outfielders in baseball. Victor Scott, I think, is competing against himself in spring training. Like if he hits well, he's in. Like I think they love that. They didn't do anything in free agency. Having a 24-year-old speedster like Victor Scott have a great spring and make the team, that's exactly what teams that are in the Cardinals position are looking for. So I think it's almost like Scott. Maybe it's almost like Scott against Gorman. Like Scott, if he plays well, he's the center fielder. Brendan Donovan plays second. If Scott stinks, maybe Gorman's the second baseman. Brendan Donovan goes the outfield. And maybe all along, Siani gets like part-time playing time. But it would be depressing offensively if Siani, he is a great fielder, but he would have to be able to hit better. He's got to be like at least like a 650 OPS, and I don't even know if he can be that.
Gorman was on the cusp of being a star.
Yep.
And he had the year in the minors last year.
One of the biggest disappointments last year. He was like a mid-round. Like I think I took him in a league in like round 12 or something.
Yeah,
like
he had 27 homers in 2023.
And an 805 OPS. So it wasn't just 27 empty homers. He also had a 328 OBP, which isn't great, but it's okay. He was solid. And then everything fell apart. So again, there's someone who maybe we shouldn't totally dismiss. He's still, what's he now? 5 turning 25 this year in the spring.
Yeah. And keep in mind, they're probably going to trade Nolan Arenado at some point in time too. So that's going to open up some more playing time for somebody.
Have you mentioned that to Nolan Arenado? Because he doesn't seem to be that on board with that idea of them trading him.
He wants to be traded. He requested a trade.
Well,
but
not to Houston. Not to, come on, man. Not to Houston. This is so great.
He's above Houston. Yeah, I guess.
Good park, like a playoff team, a good park to hit in.
And now that I say that,
what
I'm
else
just
is
seeing
this
an
guy
update
looking
saying
for?
that Mozeliak saying it's less likely that Arenado's going to
Yeah.
get dealt. So there you go.
I
Let's look
think
at
he goes now to the summer and then see
yeah.
where he's at. But if he's floating around at 720 OPS this summer, no one's going to want him.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at the pitching. It's a little bit of job battle for the 5th spot in the rotation. Steven Matz from the 12 days he's healthy versus Quinn Mathews versus Michael McGreevy is another guy in that possibility as well. Mathews is the prospect I think that people are drafting the most, and I'm kind of excited about. What say you?
Like you said, the 12 days he's healthy for Steven Matz. Like if everybody's healthy, then Mathews starts the season in the minors, and by the middle of April, he's in the rotation when Matz is on the IL. Is probably the way it works. Like I take the under on 100 innings for Matz. I feel like Mathews throws, I don't know, 120 innings in the majors this year, something like that. Yeah, I think Mathews could go in the rotation right now and throw 150 innings, 160 innings. Like, I think he's actually ready to start in the majors. I don't know if he'd be amazing or not, but I think he's ready to have a real workload because we know that Mathews can throw a lot. So from his minor league and his college record. So either way, and I also think it's also quite likely that some of these guys get moved because of the state the Cardinals are in, get moved in July, that Sonny Gray gets moved or Fetty is on the move. I don't think anyone will take Miles Michaelis off their hands, but either way, I think Mathews spends most of the season in the rotation. I'm not sure if he spends opening day in the rotation.
I tend to agree with that.
But I think he could. Like, what are the odds even that Matz makes it through spring training?
70%.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah, mate. I don't even know if it's that high. Just given the last few seasons, like just pulling him up because it's ridiculous how many starts. Like he threw 44 innings last year. 100. Like he's been with the Cardinals for 3 years and he's still under 200 innings in 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, 70% is probably pretty accurate, but 70% that he's even on the roster, active roster on opening day. So. Yeah, again, Mathews is a more attractive guy to draft now than he will be if he's still on the outside looking in on the rotation in a few weeks.
Indeed. Chicago Cubs. You touched on this earlier, that they kind of have like a spillover effect from some of their moves in the offseason in their rotation. Signing Colin Ray, Javier Assad's banged up a little bit. They signed Matthew Boyd. Assad's got an oblique injury, a mild oblique strain. It's always mild at first, Fred. Rare occasions where he's done right away. They declare it, but a lot of times it ends up being worse than they projected it to be. Ben Brown's part of this battle here as well. I think there's some interesting names, but I think Ben Brown is the guy that everybody wants to get the job, but may not get it.
Yeah, we talked about him, like you said, either last week or the week before. I'm a bit of a broken record on this. Like team stockpile pitching depth. I think if Assad's fine in spring training, he gets the job. If he's not, maybe Ray gets the job, unfortunately, and Ben Brown just has to wait for an injury because team stockpile pitching depth. I don't see them. They could actually, like Ray could be anything. They could cut him. Like he could, if he was really bad in spring training, he could go in the bullpen. He's not going to help them in the bullpen at all. Like that's not really. I guess he's just a mop-up guy at that point, just to keep his arm stretched out.
Yeah,
until he could be in the rotation. But yeah, like you said, Ben Brown's the exciting one. I think that the odds that Ben Brown is in the opening day rotation is less than the odds that Quinn Mathews is in the opening day rotation.
Okay.
Because I think there's more competition there.
I agree.
Chicago.
I definitely agree.
Like getting over Assad and Ray is probably harder than just hoping Steven Matz gets hurt.
And in fairness, the expectations for both teams heading into this season too. The Cubs, I think, have trading for Kyle Tucker indicates they think they have a chance of winning this year. The Cardinals doing absolutely bupkis does not suggest that. I like to point that out, by the way.
Yeah, Cubs sidebar. I really did think that trading for Kyle Tucker would like cool the fan base, make them like not like cool the hot seat. It did not do that at all.
Well, because then they turned around and gave away Cody Bellinger.
Right. And they haven't extended Tucker and they didn't sign Bregman, even though now they're counting on Matt Shaw, who's I know is exciting.
And Justin Turner, the great Justin Turner is now a Cub. I don't know if you missed.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, you're right. He can play third base for them sometimes.
I'm excited about their farm system. I'm excited about Shaw,
too.
but he's got an oblique injury of his own. Maybe that's why they signed Justin Turner. And Turner is a glue guy, all that.
Yep.
I think I think that is important. I think it can get overvalued, but I think it is. It has some value at the very least.
I like the Cubs roster. I think they've got a good chance, decent chance, not a good chance, decent chance to win the division or make the playoffs. I like their roster, but they did stop. Like, they're just a team that they did some things, but I think the fan base wanted that one more. Like, they wanted Bregman. They wanted that one more move.
Right. And if you're going to give away Cody Bellinger just so you can, shave that off.
Yes.
Well, the expectation is you use that savings on something else. And they kind of sort of did, but with the declining Ryan Presley, I'm not even sure I'd like that move. But then again, it also got to the point. Yeah. And Bregman would have been an interesting change. That would have been a different fit. Maybe it would have been a good fit there. I don't know. But then again, they weren't willing to pay $40 million a year. And I even saw Cubs fans on Twitter saying, I'm glad we didn't do that contract. But then it was so deferred. And who cares about the contract? It's only money. Yeah. Why do you care about the Cubs making when they have over $530 million in revenues? Why do you care if it costs money? It's like, that's as a fan, as fans, I often wonder that, like, why do we care if it's a bargain or if it's a good deal, if it's adding a good player? Add the good player first and let them worry about the finances of it there. So anyways, now I think Turner begins the year as a starter at third base, by the way. I think Shaw starts the year in the minors. I think this buys them a little bit of time, especially with this oblique injury here. I
guess it's depressing. You're probably right. Like, I'd love for Turner to start the year as a bench guy who plays gives Shaw a couple days a week, and gives Michael Bush a day a week, and maybe play DHs a day a week or something.
Yeah.
And Shaw is still plays third base 5 times a week. But
yeah, I think that does ultimately happen. I just don't think it happens in April, and I don't think that's necessarily bad, especially given how the weather in Chicago in April is probably not great. True. You don't want to get your prize rookie off to a bad start.
You're right. There could be some nice buzz for like a May 10th call up or something like that. Cubs are off to a decent start. Someone's hurt or something like that, and here comes Matt Shaw. Like that's cool in its own way. But if you knew that was going to happen, are you drafting him? Are you stashing him into May?
Maybe.
No, I can't. I think maybe no. I don't know. I'll just team construction. Depends how many injured players I have, things like that. But like if I've drafted guys like Spencer Strider or something, but actually I'll consider it. If my roster looks like everybody should be healthy at the start of the season, then I'll consider it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Like you can only have one in a
one
IL league. Yeah. In a no IL league, you can only have one Strider or one Shaw or one Quinn Mathews or one Bubba Chandler or whatever.
Right. Yeah. By the way, Matt Shaw is not 5'7". Ted, come on. He's 5'11". That's what his official thing is. Come on, let's not. I know you've got this bias against right-handed hitters and rookies, but come on.
He's 5'9" on Fangraphs. He is 5'9" on Fangraphs.
Okay, so we list him on our site at 5'11". So fine. Maybe he's not 5'11". Maybe that's exaggerated, but he's not 5'7". Come on.
MLB page is also 5'9", so we can go 5'9".
5'9". Okay.
I appreciate the RotoWire bump of giving him a couple inches.
Yeah, I'm just clicking through and seeing. I didn't put in the size on him here. Yeah. I don't really care about Matt Shaw. I'm not a Matt Shaw stan or anything. I just to get right numbers here. All right, Cincinnati Reds. They have you were talking about these job battles have a way of sorting themselves out. Talking about the fifth starter job here. Well, it might be someone that's not listed. Abbott and Lowder are both behind schedule now. It might be Graham Ashcraft, who they're dabbling as an idea as a reliever maybe at some point this season. Never can have too many pitchers, Fred.
Yeah,
I think that's the real takeaway.
When you talk about why teams put Colin Ray in the rotation and put Ben Brown in the minors or something, it's because you can never have too many pitchers.
Yep. Yeah. Or why you add these guys in the first place, because we'll probably need them. Over 60% of the pitchers spent some time on the IL last year.
It's wild.
Your injuries are going to happen, and it's already started. I don't want any part of Abbott. It's a hard pass for me.
Agreed. I don't want any Rhett Lowder. I don't really want any part of either now that he's behind. There wasn't enough ceiling there. Carson Spires is a guy who could be in the opening day rotation. He's in the rotation at times last season.
He aspires to be in the rotation at
there
times.
We go. Yeah.
Connor Phillips had a terrible year last year, kind of got a little better at the very end, but his command was awful. But in 2023, he was interesting. Then again, even when he was interesting, he's still walked 13 guys in 20 innings, so he wasn't that interesting. But yeah, it's one of those guys like, oh yeah, I remember that name. He was interesting. And then I look at the walk numbers, and he was never really that interesting at any step of the way. So okay, cross that off again. Strike that from the record. Niners. Wade Miley is going to be in that rotation at some point too. He's coming back from an elbow injury. It's a hybrid UCL repair on his left elbow last May. They're thinking late April, early May for Wade Miley. He's going to factor in at some point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in general, I think you and I don't want anyone that we've talked about.
I'm interested in Rhett Lowder.
Okay. But would you draft him?
I would in a DC. I wouldn't do it in a 12.
You wouldn't draft him in a regular 30 team, even 15, until we get a sign that he could be actually
until he's actually pitching.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
And then Chase Burns,
for now, he's
we'll
DC
see what,
only.
And we'll see what happens with Chase Burns. He hasn't thrown a professional pitch yet, but he was a first-round draft pick, and he could come quick.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. But all these guys are DCs. I think those guys are DCs only, and then the other guys are just not even.
Right.
Yeah.
Pirates. Oviedo, Falter, Bubba Chandler. Who do you got?
Well, here's my answer to that question. I'm going to answer that question with a question.
Okay, Michael Scott.
When did Paul Skeens make his first start last year?
Yeah, May, right?
May 11th. So Bubba Chandler is a great prospect. He is no Paul Skeens. So if Paul Skeens couldn't get up till May 11th on these cost-cutting frugal Pirates, like, is Bubba Chandler going to get up?
But I think the Pirates learned, though. They cost themselves that compensation pick by waiting too long on Skeens.
Sure, but Bubba Chandler's not a sure bet to, you know what I mean, to reach the heights. Like
all the more reason to call him up when he's ready.
I think that Bubba Chandler's unfortunately going to end up in the minors to start the season, even though I think he's way better than Oviedo and Falter.
Yep.
I don't want any part of Oviedo and Falter.
Oviedo's coming back from injury. He may not be ready either.
He might not. But okay, so then it's kind of Chandler against the organization. Like, is the organization willing to let Chandler be in the opening day rotation? Or are they just going to put any other guy in the opening?
They could just sign some retread veteran out there too.
I think it would be really cool if they did.
Right.
I have Chandler. I'm drafting Chandler. How about this? I'm drafting and stashing Chandler, even if he's not in the opening day rotation.
Yeah, and I'm interested in Harrington too. I agree with Uncle Ted on this one here. I am definitely interested in both of those guys. Yep. I think the Pirates actually do pitching okay.
Yep.
It's just their lineup is tragic. I mean, just look at their depth chart.
Yeah, it's awful.
You know, Joe Sheehan did his, he's doing team by team pieces there, and he did how the Spencer Horwitz bad news is actually really hurts the Pirates and how depressing that truly is. Yeah. Their options at first base: Jared Triolo, Billy Cook, Derek Hall, DJ Stewart, guys that aren't even first basemen. They're just kind of trying to plug in there until Horwitz comes back. And it's for Spencer Horwitz, who you've seen before. He's okay.
Yeah.
Be a better OBP guy for this team, which speaks volumes. But I mean, this is a team with 3.5 major league hitters on it. There's Reynolds, there's O'Neill Cruz. I'll give McCutcheon, Pham Havs, Nick Gonzalez, maybe Brian Hayes is a perennial disappointment, but still a major leaguer. Joey Bart was actually good last year. They got Andy Rodriguez back. He might be good. We'll see, but it's still, I mean, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is their starting shortstop.
Yep. And he's a nice bench player on a team because he can play a lot of positions, and that's it. I wrote about the Pirates in the offseason, and my comment was Paul Skeens is watching. Paul Skeens, if you ever want to re-sign Paul Skeens, unless you just want to be Paul Skeens' first team, and I'm going through this with Vladdy right now, unless you want to be Paul Skeens' first team, at some point you need to start making moves because he's watching. And if he sees the Pittsburgh as just this lame duck, not even second tier, third tier, whatever the bottom tier is organization, then when he gets close to free agency, he's going to tell them, sorry guys, I'm not open to extending with you. Trade me to the Mets, trade me to the Red Sox, trade me to the Yankees, trade me to the Giants, whatever, but I'm not open to extending with you. Yep. So he's watching, and they had a chance to start pushing this rebuild into some high gear this offseason. They've clearly got with Skeens, Jared Jones, Chandler, they've got, and Mitch Keller, they've got a rotation there, and they just did not get any hitting.
Nope, none. And they haven't tried. And then again, who's going to take their money either, the way they've behaved over the years too. They're just not even in, they're not even in the conversation. And that's the thing that's frustrating. Just as they're what's wrong with baseball, not the Dodgers. That's my hard stance there. All right. We're going to talk NL West, but first, quick note from Edge Boost. Have you ever had your debit card declined or had to call your bank at 3 a.m. in Vegas? Edge Boost is the first consumer-facing online bank dedicated to the gaming industry. There are numerous benefits to using Edge Boost. Up to $250,000 per day in debit deposits, unlimited withdrawals, cashback on sports betting, DFS, and sweeps, 100% approval on all gaming activity, financial segmentation for discretion and responsible gaming, compatible today for prediction markets, iCasino, DFS, sports betting, lottery, brick and mortar casinos, horse racing, and sweeps. No transaction revenues or account freezes. Or no transaction reviews, or account freezes. Visit edgeboost.bet today and use promo code ROTOPOD. That's promo code ROTOPOD. All right, NL West. Let's talk about this here. Dodgers. We got to talk Dodgers here. There might be a few job battles there. Let's talk about the starting rotation. First, I think it's noteworthy that they're not going with a 6-man rotation in April while Ohtani's not ready to pitch. They're going to go with the 5-man. So that means less room for Tony Gonsolin or Dustin May or Landon Knack or Bobby Miller. It's crowded, by the way, there too. There's a lot of really good options that most teams would kill to be like their 3rd or 4th starter.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really hope that because they're not going with the 6-man rotation at the start of the year, I really hope that Dustin May's in the rotation. I think he's the one that's got the fantasy excitement. I'm worried that it'll be Tony Gonsolin, who I would still draft. I draft almost anyone who starts for the Dodgers. But I hope it's May. I think it's going to be Gonsolin. I hope May can find his way in the rotation somehow.
Yeah, I've got May in an NL only keeper league. And I'm probably going to hold on to him just because the upside's so high. Yep. But I almost feel like, this is another situation where what's true in April won't be true in July. Mm-hmm. But the problem is then Clayton Kershaw's back. Then Ohtani's pitching. Then, that's the real problem is the Dodgers are kind of planning this out that way. And it's smart of them to do that. Just annoying for us. I don't know if I think Tyler Glasnow will be ready for the start of the season, but maybe not. Mm-hmm. We'll see. Mm-hmm. They even like a guy like Ben Kasparaias, who pitched in the World Series last year, Justin Robleski. These would be very interesting names on other franchises, and they just really are on the outside looking in.
Yeah, we have seen how this goes though with the Dodgers. Like, there's going to be injuries. There's going to be spot starts. I think the Dodgers rotation is going to wear us out again this year, where you can't ignore it. So there's too much fantasy value there, so you can't ignore it. So you're going to have to just play with it. And I think some of these guys are going to be frustrating, and there will be a week maybe where you put someone in and then he doesn't start, you take a 0, but overall it's going to be, the juice is going to be worth the squeeze on some of these guys. Actually, I was just writing an article about the Dodgers recently, and I said that maybe this is actually the pocket of Dodgers value. Like, the other guys are expensive. But this is where you get guys past pick 250 that, might be really valuable just by being attached to that great team.
Right. And kind of inching into a job. Absolutely. I can see it there. Outfield's a little crowded there too. Conforto and Teoscar re-signing kind of aces out Andy Pages. But I don't want to rule out Pages because I think he's still got some intrigue. I think that there's pathways, to him playing, because let's face it, Conforto is not exactly Iron Man out there. Edman was hurt a big chunk of last season. I could see a scenario there where Pages doesn't begin the year as a starter, but still plays like in 130 games. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Or I think I could even see maybe he does begin the season as a starter. I think that's totally possible too.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. I think I haven't ruled that out at that point. He's kind of firmly on my draft list. I could see him being like a quote starter, like he plays most days and then Edman moves around a lot. I think that's possible as well.
Yeah, so I think Conforto is the starter, though. I think Conforto plays, and he plays against all righties at the very least.
Conforto plays, Teoscar plays. Edman, I could see moving around a lot, and maybe then there's room for Pages in there.
Maybe. Can he play center? That's the question on it. Can they treat him?
The other guys can.
Right. Let's move on to Arizona. One of these job battles kind of got resolved a little bit. Geraldo Perdomo just signed a contract extension, 4 years, Jordan Lawler is going to start the year in the minors, almost certainly.
Yeah, that contract is a big buzzkill. Oh, if I can jump back to Pies for a minute, 87 appearances in center last year, so that could be a fit for him. Jump now back to the Diamondbacks. I struck Jordan Lawler off my draft board the second I saw that contract.
Yeah.
They did kind of already hint to that. Like they talked about having him in the offseason. They talked about having him play third base. And I was like, oh, really? You guys want him to play third base? Because like last time I checked, like I don't love Eugenio Suarez, but he had a good season. And,
I like him.
Yeah, he's fine. Like I get that in the long run, he's like that's probably maybe where they picture him going. Like Suarez is 33, Perdomo's a younger player. Anyways, they like Perdomo. They like his defense. They signed him. He's their guy. Suarez is in the last year of his contract. I think Lawler maybe pushes into third base at some point this year, or maybe it's just their third baseman next year when Suarez is gone.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
But good for Perdomo. I really thought that he was going to lose his job to Suarez. Like I said, he fields well and he hits just good enough that he got this contract.
Yeah. He's a glue guy. He's great defensively. I think Lawler still could come in the second half of the season, but it doesn't seem like that. They might wait for Suarez's contract to be over instead.
Like in a draft champions, you would take Lawler?
I would, but 100 picks later than I would have otherwise.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
I've got him in XFL as a keeper, and I'm bummed about that. I traded for him a year and a half ago as part of a rebuild, and all of a sudden, last year, lost season. Okay, that happens, but this is a kick in the face. I mean, so yeah, as Joel and Art says, it is a kick in the face with that extension. Maybe I just stole his phrase, so subliminally it was in my head to use that phrase. Starting rotation for the Diamondbacks as well. There's some competition there. What to do about Jordan Montgomery? This is another guy that he took the player option. I think they were hoping he wouldn't, but why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
He's seventh in the rotation. Right now, there's not even a spot for Ryan Nelson, let alone Montgomery.
Yeah, I think of you're right. I think of Montgomery as sixth just because of his contract. But you're right. I feel like Montgomery has to be on another team by the end of spring training.
Yeah.
Like they just eat some of his contract so that there's other teams that could, like we've talked about some teams today, like the Pirates. I know the Pirates won't take him because they'll cost any amount of money and they'll just be like, sorry, you guys aren't picking up the whole contract. Forget it. But you know what I mean? Like there's teams we've talked about that have some lousy guys at the back end of their rotation.
Yeah.
Like we're not done with Jordan Montgomery, are we? Like I'm not. I don't feel like we should be. He was a pretty solid starter. And then last year he didn't sign a contract until like the 11th hour. He never seemed to be really right. He lost over an hour of over a mile per hour on his fastball, and everything fell apart. But I mean, if you look at the previous 3 years, 3.20 ERA, 3.48 ERA, 3.83 ERA, working backwards to 2021, he was good. All the ERA estimators, like mid to high threes, maybe just 4. Like he was good. So last year he signed late. He lost velocity. He stunk. And
I think there was some chatter about his conditioning too.
Agreed. So I think why wouldn't some teams around baseball, and maybe they already have, explore with the Diamondbacks, as teams, where this might come is as teams get injured in spring training. Get injuries in spring training. Maybe some teams who aren't currently interested in him will now come back and be like, okay, what do you guys want for him?
I think it's interesting this offseason. There's not a Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery out there. It's Kyle Finnegan and JD Martinez and a bunch of relievers. Mm-hmm. There's not this is a guy that was expecting big money and it just hasn't gotten their deal yet. No, these are all guys that are, for better or worse, expungible. I mean, exactly. David Robertson might be the guy that had the best year that's still out there.
Yeah.
And Robertson's good. I thought that he would be of value to somebody. He still probably will sign somewhere at this point, but he's also 40, at the same time. There's no long-term deals to be had.
No, you're right. I am shocked that he hasn't been signed already. So like you said, I know he's 40, but David Robertson's someone I thought, would for sure be signed by now.
Yeah, I thought so too. But but maybe he's just waiting for the right situation too.
I guess. Yeah, maybe. I mean, teams are 72 innings last year and a 3.00 ERA, great strikeout rate. He can help a lot of teams.
Yeah, he can.
A lot of. I've seen some bad bullpens.
Yep.
The Nats. He could be the Nats closer tomorrow.
But yeah,
but they don't want to spend any money
right.
on their pitching staff.
That's just the problem.
That's it. Too many teams that don't want to spend any money. Anyways, like just finishing up, with Arizona. I don't know. I got to think Montgomery's off the roster, and then I still don't know what to do with Ryan Nelson. I took him off my draft list for now.
Yeah, he's
kind of like,
yeah.
I guess I didn't take him totally off my draft list, but I put him down far enough that.
Well, because he doesn't have a job, and I hate this trend towards 6-man rotations too. I think this is a mistake. Right. I don't think it makes the pitchers any healthier. I don't think it makes the teams any better. I'm not a fan.
Yeah,
I gotta admit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree.
So we'll see about that. See if I understand where, like with the Dodgers, why it makes sense because of Ohtani. I think you see the Mets and the Red Sox talking about it too. Good teams.
Yep.
And I just don't know if it's going to be something that's a smart move, but we'll see about that.
It makes so much sense for the Dodgers. Just they've got all these fragile pitchers and non-durable pitchers and like non-innings eating type pitchers. But most teams, I agree, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, Fred, we're going to let you get out of here. You got to go get a son to hockey practice, pick up from, I forget which side of that equation, but you got to drive for about an hour in the cold in Toronto. So thanks for switching around your time frame for us here today. And thanks, everybody. All great comments in the chat today. Really appreciate everybody talking in there. Good stuff. Mm-hmm. And we'll be back at you again next Tuesday. We're going to be doing the mixed LABR draft. We'll be live streaming that one there for at least a couple hours. So tune in. That will be 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific for that. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in today. And we'll be back at you again soon. Take care.